complex things at the moment. Your piece on the Denmark goes still very strong. It's number one piece on the Google on anti-Semitism in Denmark, and about 50,000 people.
Oh, excuse me, I was saying.
Good morning, everybody. Pleasure to welcome here Itamar Marcus. As you realize from our previous gatherings, we are increasingly focusing on the media and their role in the battle against Israel. It's perhaps a phenomenon which we have too little analyzed in the past. We have given too little attention to. In the past, we have not realized that it is this that the political and the media system and the NGOs and the universities, each one marched separately but hit jointly. We have had here, I think a number of you were present. We have had here Trevor Esserson on the BBC. We're very glad to have Itamar with us today, because what the Palestinian Media Watch does, which he has, is really a unique effort and a unique window on Palestinian society and its hatred. And we intend to continue with this. In February we have scheduled Andrea Levine of Camera, and by the way, we also had at the time Professor Milson of Memory speaking here. We have Camera. I hope to bring one day Tom Gross here and Shraga Simmons of Honest Reporting to get a better understanding for what is really a major problem, and on which we also have published in the recent issue of the Jewish Political Studies Review. I have a few announcements to make before I introduce David. Itamar. The first one is that there is a new P&A out there, the one with Jeffrey Gadmin, on how a non-Jew in Europe experiences not only anti-Americanism but also anti-Semitism, of which he is a victim because he has pro-Israeli views. The second thing is really request. The Jewish Political Studies Review unfortunately has very little funding. We are looking for somebody with very good English literary skills to translate an article from Hebrew of about 2,500 words. If anybody of you thinks he would like to do that, or alternatively knows somebody who would look to do that, it's a very interesting article, I can say. It's about Barbara Tuchman's attitudes towards Israel. I would like them to contact me after this lecture. Fine, then we'll just pass to the topic. Yeah, one more. The next Berman lecture, which we have fixed only yesterday, is on the 26th of December with Irwin Cotler, the Canadian Minister of Justice, who will speak about what the how the development of international human rights policies affects the Jewish people. He has asked me, and I'm sorry for that, but he asked me that no journalists will be present at that lecture, and it will be a closed lecture. I'm sorry to the journalists on our list. Well, then I stop here and I ask Itamar to take on from me. And thanks a lot for being so kind to come here.
Thank you. I want to actually just, before you begin, just reiterate something that Manfred said. The name of our organization is Palestinian Media Watch. And Manfred said, we study not really the media or partially the media, but we're studying Palestinian society through the window of its media. Our goal is not to critique the media. Our goal is to understand what we can learn about the society through the media. And I think part of the issue, it's actually a very current issue today, there's a lot of talk in the media about incitement. And if you stop, and there's this presumption that if you stop the media from presenting a particular image or a particular message which is called insightful, then you solve the problem. That's only true if the media was the problem and it wasn't a reflection of a deeper ideology in society. And that's what we are convinced of. And that's actually what I'll be showing you today, is really the media as a means to presenting an ideology of a society. And the second thing that I'll point out is the title that I was asked to talk about. The topic is the perception of the Jew in the Palestinian Authority. In the question and answer session, of course, we can talk more about that. People already asked me what's happening today, and I'm not going to be touching on that, but in the question and answer session, please feel free to discuss anything related to the media. In fact, what's happening up till today will also be Jew. Now, just as a word of introduction, PMW was founded about 8 years ago, like I said, with the goal of understanding what's happening in the internal Palestinian world, in Arabic. We didn't want to know what they were saying to the media up till that point. That's what they were saying to the media, what they were saying to journalists, what they were saying in negotiations. We wanted to know what were they saying internally in Arabic. And during this period, in order to get a total sense of Palestinian society, we study everything. In the newspapers, literally cover to cover, including things like sports pages, crossword puzzles, entertainment pages, book reviews, everything to get a sense of what's happening totally in society. And when we follow the media, the televised media, which we do every day, we take about 14 hours a day of television. We study everything again, including music videos, interviews with children, again, to get a sense of the whole society. And you'll be seeing examples of all of these things as we go through. I just want to give you, by way of introduction, before we get at the topic, why would we be studying things like sports pages? What could we possibly find in sports pages that be significant? I'll give you 2 examples from this, and then we'll go on to our topic. Now, this is an article appeared last year. By the way, today we are just about finishing up a major report on Palestinian sports pages. These are some of the items that are going to be in there. This is an article about a soccer tournament that appeared. This was in a school system for 14-year-old boys. And the article talked about the Shaheed's Memorial Soccer Championship of the Shaheed Abdel Basit Odeh. Who was Abdel Basit Odeh? He was the suicide terrorist who blew himself up on Pesach, on Passover, Seder, 2.5 years ago, killing 31 Israelis. So here you have, in a school system, an official event of the Palestinian Authority Ministry of Education, where you have the cup is named after Abdel Basit Odeh. Each of the teams in this sporting event were also named after different terrorists, and the article ended with Isam, the brother of the Shaheed, distributed the trophies. The entire sporting event was revolving around glorifying this suicide terrorist. And like I said, there are many, tens and tens of examples like this that are all going to be in the report. Just one more item, summer camps. Summer camps for entertainment, for recreation. Summer camps have routinely been named after suicide terrorists. So we had the summer camp named for Wafa Idris for girls. Wafa Idris, first woman suicide terrorist. This again official under the Ministry of Youth and Sports. This, by the way, was very interesting. UNICEF was thanked for its support. This was UN money supporting this camp named for Wafa Idris. 2 years in a row we had summer camps named for ideologies. Youngest girl suicide terrorist, 17-year-old suicide terrorist. And you had 15-year-old girls participating in a summer camp named after 17-year-old terrorist. Very, very powerful role modeling for those young girls who see this camp named after someone essentially the same age as they are. So this is just why we read the whole paper. We found fascinating information in advertisements and many other parts of Palestinian society. Now, the Jew in the Palestinian media, one of the dominant, I'm going to get into philosophy here because I think it's significant to understand they build a whole philosophy. One of the dominant ideas that we see throughout, and I've seen this for years, is what I call replacement ideology, just to use a term that I'm stealing from Catholicism. Replacement ideology, everything that is known in Jewish history to have happened to the Jews is actually Palestinian history. And it starts with the ancient Hebrews are actually the ancestors of the modern Arabs, whether the ancient Khazars are the ancestors of the modern Jew. And therefore, if you replace all of Jewish history with Arab history, then they, of course, have the right to the land. I want to show you this in their own words. The person speaking here is Dr. Issam Sasalam. He used to be head of the history department in the university. He has been appearing probably 6 years already, regularly on Palestinian television teaching history, and that's why this message is significant. Again, he's the head of a history department. I want you to hear how he expresses these 2 ideas.
الناس لا نركز كثيرا على ما جعلت بالقبائل العبرانية وهي بانشاء قبائل بدوية عربية لا علاقة لها بيهود الخزر هؤلاء. أما يهود الخزر وكانت لهم دولة واندثرت هذه الدولة في القرن الثالث عشر للميلاد، وانتشروا في أحياء الجيتو فيما يبعد روسيا وأوكرانيا وبولندا، وجاءونا في القرن التاسع عشر بادعاءات صهيونية باطلة ترتكز على أساطير.
This is a foundation. Jewish history is lies. The Jews are connected to the Khazars. We are connected to the Hebrews of the Bible, and therefore we have the right to the history, and of course the political conclusion, we have the right to the land. I want to show you this. That was Itamar Marcus. Here's Gerald Kidwa. He is head of the PA Public Library, used to be referred to as an advisor of African education. Here you see a different aspect of the ancient history.
من أين جاءت قصة هيكل سليمان؟
هيكل سليمان يعني أنا كما أعتقد أنه بناه الكنعانيون من ضمن خيالاتهم الهيكل. على أي حال عندما جاء إخواننا أهلنا الكنعانيين أو جدودنا إلى فلسطين بنوا هيكلا.
They take away the people, they take away the symbols, the temple is theirs, the people are theirs. I'm going to show you just how far back this goes. This is a very interesting expression of this. This is the same Gerald Kidwa. This goes back to 1997. That's what I'm saying. The last ones you saw from earlier this year. I want to show you how this was expressed from essentially the beginning when we were just starting to follow Palestinian television.
لا علاقة بيهود اليوم بكل ادعاءاتهم بيهود الأمس القدامى. إذا وتسمية إسرائيل في هذه الدولة الإسرائيلية جارتنا هذه بالإسرائيليين أو العبرانيين أو الدولة العبرية تسمية فيها تجاوز كثير وتنقصها الدقة والصحة. هذا بالنسبة للعبرانيين. أما بالنسبة لبني إسرائيل أو بنو إسرائيل فهم أيضا قبائل عربية وقبائل عربية من الأقحاح العرب. الله يصدقني إنه في دمي من السامية من بني إسرائيل والعبريين القدامى أجدادنا أكثر مما في دم شارون وبنيامين نتنياهو.
Very humorous to us, very important for them. He has more blood than Sharon and Netanyahu. And again, this goes back to 1997. We have never stopped hearing this message that they are the ones who have the historical right to the land. Essentially, it's a total replacement theory. Jewish history becomes this. Just to show you one last one, because this was on 2 weeks ago on Palestinian television. This is the same as Samsasal. This was November 21st, let's say 3 weeks ago, not 2 weeks ago, to show how current this is today.
كل الأنبياء على هذه الأرض نحن أحق بهم. أرض الرسالات نحن ورثاؤهم. وإذا حرفت التوراة هذا أو ذاك فهي أقاصيص أسطورية لا نجادل فيها، ونقول بكل ثقة واعتدال نحن أهل هذه الأرض. جيلا بعد جيل يذهب الغزاة ويندثروا، نحن ورثاؤها الأصلاء، وجاءونا كنكبة في القرن التاسع عشر في غفلة من الزمن أن يدعوا ادعاءات باطلة تذكرني بديدان طفيلية في البحر تأكل نوع من الحلزون ثم تسكن في الصدفات. لن نسمح لأحد أن يسكن أصدافنا.
Okay, so you see the ideology plus the political conclusion. They're the parasitic worm. We won't let anyone live in our shell. And again, this was just 2 weeks ago on Palestinian television. Now, when they come across with this replacement ideology, they then have to do something with Jewish history. So what they do is they repeatedly talk about Jewish history being false, and again they accuse us of having a replacement ideology. So this is a fascinating one, and again the date here is significant. This goes back as early as 99. This is not a result of the conflict. This was the ideology from the first day we followed. And here this was an article, or actually from a symposium, they were critiquing David Ben-Gurion's book, The Jews in Their Land. And he writes as follows: the participating authors tried to prove the continuity of Israel since the early generations. They created a history tied to it, which is in the final analysis the history of the Arab nation of Palestine and its homeland, Palestine, exactly what they have done. In fact, historically, they accuse us of trying to create a history by erasing Arab and putting Jews, and this is, again, a foundation of their ideology. They are at times willing to talk about the Jews as a religion, and this is, again, on the political level. You've heard from the academics. Here's the Minister of Labor at a symposium. The story of the worldwide transmission of the Jewish religion does not give the Jews the right to live in Palestine. The Jewish religion, which has a connection to the land, doesn't give them a historical right because they have no history. The religion can't give the people a connection to the land. Now, you heard Sir Solomon just a minute ago talking about the legends of the Bible, and this is significant. A lot of people interpret Islam to say that Abraham, Moses were prophets, and Judaism was an accepted religion. After that was Christianity, and Muhammad and Islam is the final religion. That's not classical Islam, and that's not what the Muslims are teaching. It's not what the Palestinians are constantly stressing to their people. And this is somehow a perception that we see a lot in the media today, that Islam recognizes the legitimacy of Judaism and Christianity. In the Quran, and this is significant, when he talks about the biblical legends, where is that coming from? This is from the Quran, the fifth surah. Certainly Allah made a covenant with the children of Israel, we raised them, but they changed the words from the right places. They forgot a good part of the message that was sent to them. The Jews forgot the original Islam that was given to Moses, and they changed it. And then Islam was given to the Christians. Jesus was said to have received Islam. However, the Christians, there are those who say, we the Christians, we did take a covenant, but they forgot a good part of the message that was sent to them. The Christians likewise changed Islam into Christianity. And then finally comes Muhammad, our messenger. Muhammad has come to you, making clear to you much of what you concealed of the book, and passing over much. Indeed, there has come to you a light and a clear book from Allah. This is Muhammad's message to the Jews and Christians when he was trying to convince them. I'm not asking you to change Judaism and Christianity. They never really existed in this original sense. They originally were Islam. You've changed them. This is the message of Islam. This the Palestinians focus on a lot to try to erase that connection. That's what he said, the biblical legends. The Bible as accepted today that we present, they present regularly as legends, because the original stories of the Bible were about Islam. Now, once they have erased ancient history, they have to come and explain why Jews would have come to this land without any historical connection. And this is mentioned over and over again as well. But the basic message is that Zionism was not originally a Jewish idea. The Jews never would have thought of Zionism on their own because we had no historical connection to the land. But in fact, it was the European colonial powers who created the idea of Zionism, and did it for two reasons. One, to dominate the Arab Middle East, and two, to be rid of the burden of the Jews. And I'll show you this in their own words. This is actually from a history book that was used by the Palestinians. I think, as far as I know, it's still being used today. This is from a report that we did in 1998. It's based on a Jordanian school book, which is actually significant because it shows the wider ideology. In any case, these are the words in the 10th grade school book. The colonial powers regarded the Zionist movement as the means for the attainment of their greedy colonial aspirations, and saw Palestine as the base for setting up a Jewish state in order to exploit its natural resources. The European colonial powers spread the idea of Zionism amongst the Jews. And this is a critical message. The Jews wouldn't have thought of it. It was the Europeans who gave the Jews the idea to come to Zionism because they had their greedy idea of controlling the Middle East. Now, I said there were two aspects to this. One, dominate the Middle East, and two, to be rid of the burden of the Jews. This is the other reason for the creation of Zionism by the Europeans. I want to show you two wordings of this. One goes back again to 1998 to show how long this has existed, and one's from just a few months ago. The difference between Hitler and Balfour was simple. Hitler didn't have colonies to send the Jews, so he destroyed them. Whereas Balfour turned Palestine into a colony and sent the Jews. Balfour is Hitler with colonies, Hitler is Balfour without colonies. They both wanted to get rid of the Jews. Zionism was crucial to the defense of the West by ridding Europe of the burden of her Jews. Ridding Europe. This is what the Europeans wanted to accomplish with Zionism. Control the Middle East and get rid of the Jews. See, that was in Al-Khayat al-Jadida, the official daily of the PA. I want you to hear this same message coming from the Palestinian professors. This was a few months ago.
اليهود كانوا يعيشوا داخل مناطق معزولة الجيتوات سواء في بولندا بصفة خاصة أو ما يسمى بروسيا. هؤلاء هم بقايا الخزر ولا يمت بأدنى صلة إلى بلادنا وإلى تاريخ بلادنا، وحتى أولئك الذين حملوا هذا الاسم لا تاريخ لهم ولا علاقة لهم بهذه الأرض. في ذلك الوقت كانت بريطانيا تريد أن تزرع السرطان. لم تكن هناك فكرة لدى هؤلاء بأن تكون لهم فلسطين. أرادوا كما ذكر الإخوة أن يكون لهم وطن ما.
المعامل الأول هو الخلاص من اليهود الذين
Jumped a little quickly, I want to go back. In aiding Zionism's British first aim was to be rid of the Jews. This is a professor who called in.
الذين يعني اشتهروا بإثارة الفتن والبلابل والأزمات الاقتصادية.
They were used to creating financial crisis, disturbances, wars. The Jews were the social cause of social upheaval in Europe. That's why they wanted to get rid of the Jews. So these are the two legs to this ideology. The Europeans created Zionism essentially to control as well as to protect themselves. Now, in talking about the image of the Jew, the visual image and the whole history of the Zionist period is distorted in many, many ways. And I want to show you, dealing with this period of what they call about the stealing of Palestine and the connection to the colonials who stole Palestine. Here is the visual image of the Jew. This appeared on there was a month-long series. Every day dealt with a different period in history, and it was done in this type of popular style. This is describing how the Jews stole the land from the Palestinians, what they call the Palestinian Arabs in the 1940s.
هاي الأرض إلى أهل وأصحاب، شيل خيمتك وانكل أنت وجماعتك.
هذه أرض أخذتها وكالة يهودية من حكومة فلسطين في ورق من مندوب سامي.
هاي مش أرض المندوب الزفت حتى يعطيك إياها. شيل خيمتك وامشي أنت وياه.
مين يروح؟ ها؟ مين ينقلع؟ مين يشيل؟
This image, by the way, of the Zionists being identified with the Haredi, the archetypal Haredi, is very, very common. You'll see it later in some characters, but regularly they'll present the Jew. This will be the image, again, in caricatures as well as you see in historical series, and certainly historically they weren't the dominant Zionists, but this is the way it's presented. Of course, you got that same message of it was the colonial Europe, the High Commissioner who gave the land to the Jews, who then were able to steal it from the Arabs. That was the message. Now, a second message of this replacement, and this is a dominant, I would say, part of Palestinian identity, is victim. The centrality of the refugee concept, of the refugee story, and the blowing of this up. They are victims. A child goes to school, a child grows up. There are films all the time presenting him as victim. You were born a victim because your ancestors were kicked out of Palestine. Now, they use, and I say replacement here because they very often use Jewish symbols, again, erasing Jewish victimhood, which has been, Jews have been victims of anti-Semitism and oppression for thousands of years. They actually go and they put that on themselves. We are the actual victims. Start off with something fascinating. This is an image, I'll show you the film in a second, where they use this image. This is an authentic Holocaust photo. There have been numerous photos like this of Jews who died on barbed wire during the Holocaust. This is from a Palestinian film. The last time we saw this was 2 days ago. It's a 45-minute to an hour film, approximately, on the story of the refugees. And here, this is the image of the refugee. He's holding a key in his hand, the key to his house in Haifa, Akar Yafo, and it's blended into this presentation, which I'm not going to show you, but you see again how this victimhood, even that image of the refugee.
على هذا الكوكب أرض تسمى فلسطين، لكن قوى الظلام كانت وما زالت تقسم العالم كيف تشاء. تلك هي حكاية لاجئين. كثير من العائلات الفلسطينية لا زالت تحتفظ بمفتاح بيتها. هذا مفتاح بيتنا في يافا، هذا مفتاح بيتنا في حيفا، هذا مفتاح بيتنا في عسكر. اسألوا ما شئتم، اسألوا أي فلسطيني في أي بلد كان، من أي بلد أنت سيقول لك من يافا، من حيفا، من قرية كذا، من بلدة كذا. بعيدون قاصرون بالحدود يوم
هؤلاء الشباب لا يعرفون حيفا ويافا وعكا والجليل والمثلث والنقب، وإنما لديهم إيمان أن الفلسطيني يولد ومعه حق العودة مع حليب الرضاعة.
إحدى الأيام قريت عن كتاب مؤلف واحد إسرائيلي قال فيه إن الجيل الأول بموت والثاني بموت والثالث بتعب والرابع بنسى، وأنا بقول له بذكره إني أنا من الجيل الرابع وما نسيت، وأنا لو عندي حلم إني أروح على جار ياسمين، وبالنسبة لي هي كحلم، ولو بدي بفديها بدمي بس ترجع جار ياسمين.
Even the language is actually a copy of "We Will Never Forget." We've been saying for 2,000 years in Meshkachech Yerushalayim, even longer. And they say, "We will never forget. We will never forget." The same imagery, same language is even used on the images. Now here we talk about the victimhood. We talk about the tracing. I want to show you first on a popular level, and then on an academic level, even the Holocaust. Even the Holocaust, they say, has happened to them. And here, and this is as a popular. This was about an hour-long history musical that involved a lot of song, a lot of dance. It was put on for children on Palestinian television a few months ago. And at the period of the history of the Holocaust, this is the language that they use.
هم اللي عملوا المحرقة، سكينهم في لحومنا مغربة ومشرقة، فتحوا لنا فرن يخبزوا فيها البني آدمين، هدموا القرى، حرقوا المدن، وكل ما ينطفي فرن يوجدوا لنا 100 فرن، ايديهم بدم اطفالنا مزوقه.
They opened 100 more ovens, even the images in the background of the ovens here. Again, all trying to create the image of the Holocaust. Now here you have the same professors, Al-Kidwa and Salam, again, like I said, they've been on for years. And here, this is what they talk about the Holocaust and who are the ones who are the victims of the Holocaust.
هنا بدأت الحياة الكاذبة بأن اليهود قتلوا هنا وهناك والهولوكوست، وطبعا هذا والدعاء لا لا أنسى لا لخلفية ولا دخان ولا عدف كانت محلات للتوصيل. هناك يعملوا دعايات بأساليب إعلامية على أنهم اضطهدوا وقتلوا وأبيدوا. بدأت بعد الحرب لجان تحقيق وسنة 46 يرسلوا للتحقيق هنا وهناك من أجل خلق هذا الكيان. هذا الكيان الجديد الذي زرع سرطانا في أرضنا التي أرض أجدادنا وأرضنا نحن وأرض أبنائنا من بعدنا. ثم كانوا دائما يتصفوا بأنهم ضحايا، وهنا عاملين طبعا معرض للبطولة والكارثة. هذه البطولة لمن والكارثة على من؟ شعبنا يحمل البطولة.